a lot of checks and balances, while spending much of his second term showing his disdain for states' rights and prerogatives as well. Our guest, Daniel Squadron, says Democrats need to engage more at that state level in politics. His brand new book, we mistitled it in our introduction. I apologize for that. It's called The Fourth Branch: How State Government Can Save Our Union. He writes this, quote, "States are the basic building blocks of our country. The actions they take are the coding proteins that control our nation's future. I wanted people to see that states are as important as any one of the federal branches when it comes to the rights that individuals in our country are guaranteed, when it comes to government's impact on everyday lives, when it comes to protecting the American experiment. Staring down the Trump presidency, I was getting impatient, watching people spend enormous energy on things that didn't matter, when they could do so much if they focused on state lawmakers. It was getting to me." We're all back. This feels like it is a brilliant political analysis and blueprint, as well as this sort of Buddhist principle of focusing your energy where you can still control the outcome. Just talk about the book and the philosophy.
There's certainly some serenity prayer in spending your career in state legislature.
Right.
And I actually think I ran for state legislature in my late 20s for the same reason that I left state legislature to co-found an organization called the States Project, and the same reason I wrote The Fourth Branch, which is, in a democracy, people need to be rigorous with themselves about where they can have an impact. And a lot of folks feel like they're observers to the destruction of it right now. They're spectators. And in states, they're not. A small number of people coming together can have an outsized impact in elections decided by a few dozen votes or fewer, in campaigns that for an entire legislature cost less than a single congressional seat. And so there really is a power. Then the second question is, well, do they matter at all? Do they actually have power? And I think as Trump has shown us, as we've seen on every domestic policy issue in the last 15 years, states have done more harm or good than Congress has.
I think that's how a lot of our viewers feel, right? They feel they're paying a lot of attention now. We thank them for that, but they feel powerless in this moment. What can people do?
Well, and if we're being honest, very few people who aren't on the ballot themselves are going to determine the outcome of the presidential race. It's the right thing to do to stay involved and stay knowledgeable, watching your show, vote. But actually, people should say, can I actually change the outcome? And they can. The way they do it is by really focusing on state legislatures, either in their own state or somewhere else. So in the Fourth Branch, I talk about sort of how you can do that. One way is you come together with a few neighbors and you say, you know what, there's an issue that our state should consider within the next year. And I say 20 people in a room focused on it for a year can make their issue a top-tier issue in a state capital. Or they can join with the States Project and form what we call a giving circle. These are grassroots donors. They come together, choose a state they want to impact, and they get to choose where that state is, where their dollars go. And what they're letting candidates do is get off the phone with the special interests that dominate state legislatures and get on the doors with the voters who they're asking to have hire them.
I mean, it happened organically around an external event in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. What is sort of the mindset? I mean, and what happened there was a community that seemed to defy everything else that had happened in the second Trump term to that point. He'd successfully bullied the Republican Party into submission. He successfully bullied fancy law firms like Paul Weiss into submission. He'd successfully bullied fancy universities like Columbia into submission. And then the people of Minneapolis, after two of their neighbors were killed, took to the streets and said, no, I don't think so. Where does that peace come from in sort of, is it the collective, or where does that come from in people?
Yeah, and actually something really powerful is happening in Minneapolis, certainly on the streets, but also in state and local government. The idea that federal law enforcement could show up on the streets of an American city, you know, at best stretching the limits of the Constitution, and just do whatever they want, was proven untrue because the state and the city would not cooperate. The power of state governments and city governments, cities, of course, are created by states, to decide what happens within their own domains is really significant. I think a big story in Minneapolis is an enormous amount of courage on the streets and the impact of federal law enforcement or the federal government trying to just operate as those states are subsidiary to them. They're not.
Yeah.
And the state of Minnesota, the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, said, we're not going to cooperate. And that's what made it fundamentally not viable to do the kind of takeover that Trump thought he kind of could assume dominance in.
I mean, Mitch, it was also a mayor that said, get the F out of my city, and a governor. I don't remember if Governor Wallace dropped an F-bomb, but I mean, it's also the quality, and they were Democrats, of people who were leading that city and that state.
Well, I haven't read Daniel's book yet, but I'm looking forward to it. As you know, I was a state legislator for 16 years. I was a lieutenant governor of Louisiana and the mayor of New Orleans. So I'm a local government guy. There are two things that I want to say. Number one, Washington is